An engineer that spent 37 years designing, building, and fixing things. It's almost a compelling emotion to be able to say, you know, this isn't right, and I think I can fix it. You know, I look at the John Wayne movies and I see Tucson. They tell me that in the John Wayne days of Tucson, you know, there used to be a train that they used to, a bunch of them would put together and drive down to Nogales, maybe even into Mexico. Wouldn't that be a fun thing to do again?
Tucson Mayor Bob Walkup likes the unvarnished optimism projected by the classics. It's a can-do attitude that he relates to and spills over into everything he does.
When I say whereas, I want you to say whereas, all right? Whereas? All right, here we go. Whereas?
For an anniversary celebration of Southern Pacific's 1880 arrival to Tucson, Walkup got into the act, playing the role of the territory's first mayor, R.N. Leatherwood.
Therefore, I now proclaim March 20th as Railroad Day in this community and encourage all of our citizens to join the planned festivities on this 129th anniversary of the railroad arriving in Tucson. Hallelujah, Tucson. Hey.
Mayors are often tapped to spearhead community efforts. Walkup not only accepts the invites, he does so with gusto.
Three.
Tucson Rodeo Parade Grand Marshal, Mayor Bob Walkup.
I have decided I am an optimistic, positive person. I've tried to be the other way. It doesn't work. I can't do it. So if you can't do it, you shouldn't do it. No, I am optimistic. I believe in the future. I believe in the virtue of people and their ability to be able to get things done.
And so, says Walkup, if something's not working, instead of complaining about it, we ought to fix it. For example, in 1998, when the city was deciding what to do with its share of river water from the CAP, many questioned the water's quality and then pushed to rely solely on Tucson's groundwater.
Well, I said, boy, is that the wrong thing to do. That'll be the death of Tucson. Because if we did not use our allocation, California and Las Vegas were going to take it away from us. And I said, I'm not going to put up with that.
And with that, Walkup came out of a comfortable retirement to run for mayor. The key to his platform? To provide safe, clean, affordable, and abundant water for Tucson's future generations. A decade later, Tucson has just that. In Avra Valley, 20 giant basins are being built to capture the city's allocation of CAP water. Here it percolates into and is stored in the aquifer below. The resulting supply has allowed Tucson to shut down almost all of the wells inside the city. Now, after years of steady decreases, the city's groundwater level is rising. With 4 decades of engineering behind him, Walkup's office is filled with mementos that represents projects he's worked on, large and small.
I built this car. This is a replica of a 1928 Bugatti racing car. And it was a great project, great car. I worked with a company that built a lot of the avionics for the space shuttle, but I also built the vertical stabilizer. It's my great A-10. Love the A-10.
During the early 80s, Walkup ran the factory that built the A-10, where 8,000 workers churned out 12 planes a month. The aircraft flies out of Davis-Monthan and is a familiar sight in the skies over Tucson.
The A-10 was built, as a matter of fact, as a result of the Vietnam War, where it was concluded that what we need is an aircraft that can loiter. Doesn't have to go, Mach 1.5. It just needs to be there. And if it's going to be there, why don't we give it a great big gun? So it was designed around a big 7-barreled 30-millimeter chain gun. So I'm proud of being able to put my thumbprints on the A-10 and how well it served our country.
Early on, Walkup's father gave him his career advice.
I'm not sure what I want to do. He said, well, why don't you be an industrial engineer, because you can do anything. Maybe even be the mayor of a great city.
Walkup graduated under his father, the head of industrial engineering at Iowa State University.
This is the coat of arms of the Walkup Scottish clan in Edinburgh. It's interesting because this is, of course, Latin. It says Industria Ditat, which means always industrious.
To this day, industriousness runs in the family. Both daughters, Holly on the left and Julia, became engineers. His son Jonathan is an executive for IBM.
I'm very proud of those guys.
Engineering is in Walkup's blood, and well-engineered machines are his passion.
My son called, this is about 8 years ago, and he said, I found a brand new 1971 Honda SL350. And so we bought it, and the only thing we did was we painted it the original candy apple red. I'm not sure it'll start. Oh my God.
Inside his workshop, there's another classic, a perfectly restored 1960 MGA. Walkup did most of the work himself.
This is the original engine that I found out in the cornfield, and took it all apart. And just recently, in the 2002, had the transmission rebuilt by Ernie over on Wetmore. He's a master mechanic. This is a very classic sports car. It's fun to drive. It doesn't have a lot of power, a little four-cylinder engine, but you don't see many of them.
Right now, Walkup's preparing to operate.
But this is my new choke cable. The other one did not have a little white C on it, so it wasn't good enough.
Replacing a cable is relatively easy, so we stuck around to watch.
All right, here we go. There it is. You can go to school and learn this stuff. But I learned this as a kid because I had a car that wouldn't drive for very long. And if you couldn't figure out how to fix it, you didn't go anywhere.
As he works, Walkup takes special care. This possession, so cherished, is in his will.
My son from time to time says, hey Dad, how is my car? Calm down a bit. Let's go to item number 1. Councilmember Ehrlich has requested an update on the governor's smart growth scorecard.
When looking for solutions, there's a world of difference between working with people and working with machines. Or is there?
When something is not going right with the car, you can't line something up, you can't get those threads, you're down underneath and it just won't go, you walk away from it. And as you go, you said, okay, all right. You win this round. We're going to go in, get a glass of water and sit around, but when we come back, we'd like you to think about that, okay? And so you come back, and more times than not, it just goes in.
The task at hand prompts a host of stories, like the time he was out with his kids and one of the wheels falls off.
And they were sitting in the back, and I'm headed down the hill, and we we sat down, and the wheel went boom, 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 and we sat there, and we said, well, what do we do now? And then here came a guy driving up. He stopped his car and he said, is this your wheel? So we jacked the car, put the wheel back on, tightened it up, and said, well, kids, let's go home. Don't tell your mom.
During his pursuits, Walkup's gotten into some pretty tight spots.
I've been in here where you put your feet back this direction, and you climb underneath here, and you lie there, and you have a flashlight and a telephone, because sometimes you get stuck under there and can't get out. Or somebody calls on the phone, and this is a great reply to somebody calling on the phone, or your wife coming out and said, could you give me a hand? All you have to say is, well, I can't right now, I'm under the car. It works almost every time.
There are times when a leader faces situations where something goes wrong that cannot be fixed. The sharpest example, during Walkup's time in office, 2 Tucson police officers had been killed in the line of duty.
We all as a community feel for the loss of a police officer in the line of duty. And it's hard for a community to really express itself, but it must. So this whole mourning process is something you have to figure out how you're going to manage personally. And when it's a family, it's something you almost can't handle.
Privately, Walkup endures his own special challenge. Julia, the youngest of Walkup's 3 children, passed away in September 2007 following a long illness.
Julia was an engineer for Ingersoll Rand out in Greensboro, North Carolina, and worked in factory industrial engineering, but she ended up being their best technical salesperson. The first time it really hit me when somebody asked, "How many children do you have?" How do you answer? So the right answer is 3.
Through it all, both public and private, Walkup's wife, Beth, has been his biggest supporter.
When I was standing in the garage looking at my motorcycles and my MG and thinking about my future, the water wars is 1998. And I said, "I think I'm going to run for mayor." "Oh," she said, "you'd be a great mayor." I said, wait a minute. I've learned a lot from Beth and her ability to be able to define the problem, understand your resources, apply the resources, rally the troops, take actions, and make things better. It's the best I've ever seen. I can tell you, my family thinks that what I'm doing is extraordinary, because they never expected it. They thought I would retire and, at the end of my engineering. But all of them said, "What a great thing it is that you're doing." So I'm very pleased that I have their approval. So they said, "Well, Dad, whenever you get done with that, come on out, and we'll see how you can hit the ball." And that's okay. I'm pleased that they think their dad's doing a good job. And there'll be time to do some trap shooting and motorcycling and golfing with, I think, my grandkids by then.